Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're out here to mistreat this Smith & Wesson M&P 9mm. You will notice it has an apex trigger. I have two of these pistols. Both of them have the apex trigger. I do not have one without it, and that's because the factory trigger really sucks. So it's a improvement. This is just the standard model. This isn't the competition model, so it's just basically a trigger replacement. It does give a slightly better trigger pull, certainly better than the factory, but anyway, that's the only non-factory component on the gun. We will be using factory magazines for this battery of tests, and we will be using Fiocchi. Aha, I do read the comments. 9mm, 124 grain military ball for the most part. Okay, so we have the same four elements set up. The first set of tests that we will do is what we're calling the elemental tests, all right? We'll dunk the gun in water, fire 10 rounds. If it works okay, grab another magazine, put it in sand, fire 10 rounds. After that, we'll come over here, cleanse it in the water, then go over to the dirt, fire, cleanse it in the water, mud, fire, and so forth and so on. That's the elemental test. Quite honestly, it's a very rudimentary test with these four elements: water, sand, dirt, and mud. And we're not doing the tests with the slide locked open, getting stuff inside. We're going to make the weapon ready, round in the chamber, full magazine or 10-round magazine inserted before each test. And we honestly expect each pistol that we test in this manner to pass this test. We don't think it's overly hard for the pistol to pass it. If it passes this test with flying colors, we'll move on to what we call the Gauntlet. And that means we'll dunk it in water, go then to sand, go then to mud, go to dirt, and then to mud without the rinsing cycle in between each stage. And that is to be as hard as we can possibly make it on the gun without, again, locking the slide open and introducing stuff into the ejection port or otherwise into the internals of the gun. So the M&P is an interesting gun. It's a Glock competitor. It has a polymer frame, steel upper. And some of the things we've noticed about the gun is that, first of all, you can see a little light bar through here. It's quite open. Also, the M&P has a loaded chamber indicator, which has an opening here. So there's several points of ingress in this handgun. So we're kind of curious how well it's going to perform. It may blow through this test with flying colors. We've never tested it before. All right, guys, so here we go with the first 10 rounds. You can see the Fiocchi ammo. It's easily identifiable by the ball, the tip of the bullet. It's kind of pointed. Make the weapon ready. Put it in the water. Let it sit there until the bubbles stop coming out. And then we'll fire 10 rounds. And it did not fire. All right, so probably what happened is it hydrolock. So we'll go ahead and just run that round out, chamber a fresh round, and see if it fires. Ah, so it just hydrolocked again. All right, there we go. So 2 failures to fire, hydrolocking, clearly. Not very impressive. I think this is the first gun that actually failed that test. We'll come back and revisit it here again in a second. Now let's go straight to sand. What we do is we put the gun into the sand and just push it down flush on one side. I'm going to turn it over in a different part of the sandbox here. Again, listening to your guys' comments or reading them, push it flush. We'll take it up and fire 10 rounds. All right, go ahead and rinse the gun off. It passed the sand test with flying colors. It seems that the water was the most difficult for the gun. All right, nice and clear. Come over to the dirt. We make the weapon ready. Set it here. Push it until it's flush. Again, push it till it's flush. And fire 10 rounds. Wow, there was a huge delay in the firing of the weapon that time. All right. A little bit weird, so it kind of like had a little bit of a hang fire there.
So you had the trigger all the way back to the rear and then it did not fire?
Then it fired.
Oh, weird.
All right. Gun's working. Now we'll go over to the mud. Put it on one side and push it down until it's flush. Pick it up the other side, push it down until it's flush. And we'll fire 10 rounds. Ah, another failure to fire. Remedial action. Oh, it just did it again. Did you hear it? I pulled the trigger and then when it clicked. So it's really weird. The gun's hang firing. I'm pulling the trigger all the way. I'm giving it a good pull, and like a half a second after I pull it, click. So it's hang firing somehow. I've never had a striker fired gun do that before. So let's clean it off here again. I'll tell you right now, the M&P isn't going to do well in the Gauntlet. We'll probably do it anyway. But I want to revisit this water thing. We'll load up some more magazines and see if this thing's still going to continue to hydrolock. Now, we did clean the gun, just like we do all the other guns before we begin the test. So we lubed it up with CLP. There's not excessive lubricant or cleaning solvent on the gun. Just a very light lube. And seems like everything's working. So let's load up some magazines again and give this gun a second chance in the water, see if it continues to hydrolock. It did it in a couple of other spots also down there in the mud. Kind of interesting. All right, guys, we're going to run it through one more time. You can see inside the gun, it's really clean. We've wiped it off. The striker channel is right here. And if you look inside, just above the knife blade, you can see it's nice and clean in there. It's not dirty whatsoever. So we're going to go ahead and run it again. I'm really interested in this hydrolocking issue. I've only, I can't, well, none of the other guns we've ever tested here has had that issue, which is really kind of strange. Fire a couple rounds here, just make sure she's working. All right, so it's working. We're going to go ahead and let it sit in the water until it stops bubbling, and then fire. And it didn't fire again, guys. It's definitely hydrolocking. All right, so I'll just put it in the water one more time. All right, so it worked that time. Very weird. All right, so it only seems to happen intermittently, but it does happen. Very interesting. Now, I know some of you guys will say it's because of the trigger. It's still mostly a factory trigger, guys. It's just really the trigger itself that's been replaced. So I don't think that's the issue. But so now let's just run it through. And do we have enough ammo? We don't. So I'm going to lay the gun down, load up at least one more magazine, and then we'll come back and we'll just put it through the Gauntlet. What the heck, see what happens. All right, guys, got all the magazines topped off. Let's try this again. We'll just go ahead and start with the water. And we're going to put the M&P through the Gauntlet. It is loaded, ready to go, has 10 rounds. And there it just, that's dead trigger. It just fired. Appears to be a hydrolock. All right, so very weird behavior from the M&P. All right, go straight to the sand. Put a little bit up on it like we normally do now. Turn it over. Put a little bit up on it. Oh, that trigger pull was incredibly hard. All right, it just failed to fire again. And just failed to fire again. Failed to fire again. All right. It's just not firing, guys. And what's weird, if you look, there's nothing in the striker channel. Well, I can't say nothing, but you can see that it looks mostly clear inside there. But the gun's just not going to do it, guys. I would say that this is probably one of the worst tests we've done out here. Worst performance. Let's see if we're just not going to go ahead and do any more. I mean, the gun's obviously having issues. Before we started this, we did wipe it down, clean it as we showed you guys. Give it a fair chance. It's just not going to do it. Let's see if it's returned to function now. And it Probably just didn't lock open. Nope. Another failure to fire. I think the gun's done for the afternoon, guys. All right, let's take a few minutes to kind of digest this. We'll give you some final thoughts. All right, guys, so we had kind of a chance to reflect upon what happened this afternoon with the M&P. Some of you guys are probably going to go ahead and say that you think that the trigger caused it. The M&P fans are going to blame the trigger, perhaps blame the ammo. This is the same ammo we've been using in all the other guns. The trigger, it's just an Apex trigger itself. It doesn't change any of the mechanics actually inside the gun. It's not the full pro package or whatever they call it. I don't think it's the trigger. What appears to be happening to me is the hydrolocking, and what that means is you get water in the striker channel. Yep. And water is non-compressible, so when that striker is released, it hits that wall of water and it has nowhere to go. It's like hitting a wall. So the striker loses momentum, loses energy, and it causes a light primer strike. We also saw some delayed hang fires, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, you'll see where you described that, and I kind of asked what was happening if you had pulled the trigger all the way back and then it had delayed fire, and then once, I believe in the sand, you said that the trigger pull was incredibly hard as well.
Yeah, so it's like I was trying to break through a sand barrier or something that had gotten into the trigger, but the gun fired. But we also had those weird hang fires. I think it also happened in the mud where I pulled the trigger all the way back and like a half second later, boom, the gun goes off. So something had gotten into the sear most likely, and it was kind of hanging on, the spring tension was hanging on that crud until it finally pushed out of the way, the sear released, and the striker went home. Potentially dangerous situation. I actually expected the gun to do a bit better than that. I didn't expect the hydrolocking issues. I expected maybe to have some problems with the sand.
Yeah, that was very, very surprising to me. You know, a lot of people out there have M&Ps. They're like, I got thousands of rounds through it and no failures, and that's fine. You may have that, and that's great. I mean, I've seen M&Ps run. That's not a problem, but we just introduced a couple elements to it, and
it choked pretty hard.
Choked really hard, not pretty hard, really hard.
And I will say, this is one of 2 M&Ps that I have. There was a point where I was considering this for carry a couple of years ago. This one's been shot, but not excessively. The gun works. This is the first time I've ever had a malfunction with this gun. So it's definitely elements-based and rather unfortunate. I expected the gun to do far better.
You know, I remarked to Tim this morning that the gap between the frame and the slide is pretty significant, especially with an unloaded gun. You can stand there and look at it and you can see daylight through. It's pretty, yeah, pretty apparent there, as you guys can see there in the camera. And then the loaded chamber indicator on the hood there in the barrel of the chamber, that's another ingress point for any sort of fouling or whatever, you know. And maybe you have M&P with thousands of rounds on range, you never cleaned and it runs great, and that's fine, but have you dropped it in a puddle and picked it up and tried to shoot it? Have you?
That again is the most shocking to me.
Yeah.
Hydrolocking is a big no-no for me because we live just a few miles south of the lakeshore. We get a lot of rain here. It's muddy half the year. We're getting ready to go into our rainy season again, and if I were to drop my pistol, there's a very good probability that it's going to drop into water.
Yeah.
And honestly, guys, aside from a little bit of sediment, that's literally tap water. So it wasn't creek water, like which actually killed the VP9, which has a fine sediment to it, and we pushed it. You know, I stepped on the gun into that stuff, and I think that's what got to the VP9. This was literally tap water.
Yeah, that's pretty disappointing.
I know what's going to happen right now. A bunch of people are going to go out and make videos. Look, my M&P works great, and Mac's trying to say something bad against Smith & Wesson, and it's all a big, you know, publicity stunt. He's being paid by Company X to talk bad about Company Y, and guys, that's not it.
That's just not the way it is. Literally,
we gave it every chance.
We came out to your house. You picked up the gun out of your safe. It wasn't like we picked one specially or did anything to it. It was one that Tim already owned. Got it out of a safe. Found magazines for it. Came out here to the range. Did the test, and that was it.
And a gun that I've had really good luck with, that's never malfunctioned before. So anyway, guys, I'm sure you're gonna have a bunch of comments. You know, try to keep it civil. You know, I'm not trying to talk bad about the M&P, and as I said in our methodology video, really, these types of tests shouldn't be conclusive to you. It doesn't mean you should base a buying decision or a selling decision based upon what we've done out here this afternoon. If you're concerned about your particular gun not working if it gets wet, then go test it. If it works for you, great. This one's not working for me, but it's not a carry gun, so I really don't care. Yeah. But if you are carrying one of these and it is a concern, go test it yourself. Don't take my word for it. Your gun may work fine. But yeah. Oh, and by the way,
I was going to mention that. That's a really nice shirt, and you guys are probably going to ask where you got it, so go ahead and tell everyone.
We were at the hardware store buying another face mask today because I had forgot the original one, and some girl behind the counter goes, I love that shirt! So this is a shirt that Copper is having made. It has that on the front and then this on the back. It's about the Second Amendment. I guess Copper will be taking some pre-orders on these. We just got the prototypes in. We love them. We're going to go ahead and place an order for them. But yeah, let's just hope Hillary stays in the race. Maybe not. But anyway, if you guys, again, have any questions, go ahead and ask those questions down below. We'll stick around for the first couple of days after we post this video and try to answer the questions you guys may have. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, swing by and check out Copper Custom, where you can find things like this. It's the best way to support the channel. Also, please check out full30.com. That's full30.com. We've taken all the web's best firearms content creators and brought them under one roof, and that is full30.com. Thanks for watching, everybody, and thanks for all those wonderful years of support. We'll talk to you soon.
See you in the comments.
Yep, see you in the comments. Bye, guys.